We begin with breaking news. He was once one of the most notorious gangsters in Chicago. Tonight, President Trump is commuting the federal sentence of Gangster Disciples co-founder Larry Hoover.
Suzanne Lemonniot is in our newsroom. Suzanne, this move doesn't mean he'll be getting out of prison.
Erica, Joe, legal experts see this as a potential hollow victory. Now, while Hoover may be released from federal prison, he still has a 200-year state sentence for which a parole board has already denied early release. In 1993, Hoover spoke to former CBS News Chicago reporter John Davis, and at that time, Hoover was 42 years old and had already served 20 years in prison.
I've done my time. I paid my debt to society.
That was Larry Hoover, more than 3 decades ago. At that time, the leader of the Gangster Disciples and convicted murderer told our John Davis he had a lot of time to think about ways to stop the gang violence on the streets of Chicago.
One teenager don't like the other teenager because the way he wears his hat, because his ideology is different from his. A disciple don't like a vice lord. We all black people. It's no different.
At that time, Hoover, also known as King Larry, admitted being part of a fragile gang truce in the city and organizing a protest over plans to close health care clinics in African-American neighborhoods. Ron Safer, the lead prosecutor in Hoover's federal trial, reacts to news Hoover's life sentence has been commuted by President Trump.
I was disappointed. I do not think that this is an appropriate end to the Larry Hoover story, at least the federal part of it.
Safer says Hoover was perhaps the most notorious criminal the state of Illinois has ever known.
He was convicted of running a continuing criminal enterprise that had approximately 30,000 members across 28 states, selling over $100 million worth of drugs in the state of Illinois alone each year.
I'm not sure if I necessarily care for the commuting of the sentence of Larry Hoover. Again, I'm not really sure how the law works, so I'll be doing a little bit of research so that we can talk about it on the Millionaire Morning Show as far as his sentence being commuted. And then one of the things that prosecutors like to do is not only do they trump up the charges and they make sure that they charge you with multiple different things. That way, if you ever get off on one thing versus all of the rest of the things that you might have been convicted for, you'll still have to serve a time in prison. Now, I'm not really sure what that looks like on a state level. And I also know that he's pardoned NBA YoungBoy, but he's commuted the sentence of Larry Hoover. But let's hear the rest of this story, and then we'll continue to have this conversation.
And he ran that entire operation with ruthless efficiency from prison, where he was serving a state sentence for double murder.
Safer also told us about Hoover being recorded, saying teenagers needed to sell drugs for his criminal organization. The recording was made a year after the Gangster Disciple leader was interviewed on CBS Chicago.
There was another tape where Larry Hoover said, "You have to share your drugs with these children." And I'm talking about 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old, so that they can sell it and they can have something. And he said, make them know that with you, they are somebody. And without you, they are nobody.
Meantime, shortly after the commutation announcement, Hoover's son posted this picture on Instagram. That's a White House official holding a copy of the commutation. Hoover's attorneys say they're thrilled he's going to be released from federal custody, but again, he still has a 200-year sentence to serve for his crimes in Illinois.
So perhaps this is just a symbolic gesture from Trump. I was listening to some people on social media, and some black people were saying that Trump was trying to get buy-in from the hood. I'm not really sure why he would need buy-in from the hood, considering that he's pardoned multiple other people that the black community champions, including Kodak Black and Lil Wayne. And then again, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what that looks like as far as whether or not he will be able to actually get out of prison, considering that, again, he had to face other charges, I guess, on a state level. And so we're going to deep dive into that. But maybe it is a symbolic gesture. And obviously, Trump is not needing the buy-in of anybody, again, since he's so early in his administration, and it's actually his final term because it is the second term that he is serving. So we'll do a little bit of insight or research on that. But in addition to that, they also are pardoning NBA YoungBoy. All right, so NBA YoungBoy, for those of you that's been living under a rock, incredibly popular rapper. It says on Wednesday, President Trump pardoned rapper Kentrell Deshaun Golden, also known as NBA YoungBoy, and the White House confirmed to Newsweek. So I wanted to find a credible source reference before we started to have this conversation. Goes in to say with charges ranging from robbery and attempted murder to drug and firearm offenses. In a statement posted to social media, the rapper said, I want to thank President Trump for granting me a pardon and giving me the opportunity to keep building as a man and as a father and as an artist. This means a lot. It opens the door to a future I've worked hard for, and I am fully prepared to step into this. He also thanked Trump's pardon czar, Alice Johnson. Now, obviously, we know that Alice Johnson is one that Trump has pardoned, and then once she got pardoned, she started working for the Trump administration as the pardon czar. So she seems to be the one that is suggesting and or overseeing all of the different pardons that's coming on behalf of Trump. NBA YoungBoy continued to say, big thanks to the pardon czar, Miss Alice Marie Johnson, for fighting for second chances for so many people, and to my lawyer, Brittany Barnett, for being in my corner and all of your hard work to make this possible. Thank you to everybody who believed in me. Now, I don't know if NBA YoungBoy actually was the person that wrote this, but it was on his behalf. Prominent rapper, rise to fame with mixtapes. Despite limited mainstream presence, his projects frequently top the charts. He boasts billions of views on YouTube, has 16.3 million monthly Spotify listeners, more than 15 billion total streams on 681 songs in which he appears. They said that he was running, and I'm actually familiar with this case, that he was running a prescription drug fraud ring out of his multi-million-dollar home, which I believe that home was in Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah. I actually got a chance to visit Salt Lake City, Utah, and I was at a friend's house that was around the corner from him, and he was confined to the house. But it seems as though, I'm not really sure how you can say it's a fraud ring, but it seems as though they was basically trying to make sure that they get prescription promethazine and codeine so that, the drug of choice, that's their drug of choice. Much different than what's being described as a fraud ring. But it goes on to say an extensive plea agreement resulted in a 23-month federal prison sentence, $25,000 fine, and 5 years of supervised probation. Following his release with credit for time served, he was released in April and transferred to a halfway house in Phoenix, Arizona, complete the remainder of his sentence under supervision. He served 11 months of his 23-month sentence. His decade-long history of arrest has not seemed to slow his productivity. So basically, he's just a hustler. He's been working relentlessly at home, and he just drops music regularly. So, Trump has pardoned a lot of people, including the celebrity couple. I forgot what their name was, but it's a celebrity couple that got convicted of defrauding the IRS and all of this stuff. So Trump is not waiting until the end of his run as president before he started to pardon all of these different people. So I am going to keep you guys up to date on what's going on out in these streets. Make sure you hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. I need to do a little bit more research on Larry Hoover's case, because I believe Kanye was screaming for the release of Larry Hoover because he's from Chicago, does not necessarily mean that I agree with the pardon, although Trump doesn't need any of our approval in order to do so. But I'll keep you guys informed. I'll let you know what's happening. Make sure you hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Peace.